It's an honor to be here with you, our first presidential summit, all the presidents around this table, and the Secretary of State. I think this is a historic moment, building on years of close cooperation between Central Asia and the United States. The cooperation is grounded in our shared commitment to sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity. These principles matter more than ever, in my view.
Well, this was indeed the first time that we've done a C5+1 summit at the presidential level, so that is obviously highly significant, important, and I think it's an indication of renewed U.S. commitment and renewed U.S. interest in the Central Asian region.
It took 8 years for something like this to happen since the C5+1 was launched. Why now, and why this matters now?
Well, look, we felt this was the right time to do this, and it's an important signal. It shows the importance and the value that the United States places on our relations with Central Asia. So we were very pleased that President Biden could make the time to host his counterparts here in New York on the margins of the UN General Assembly.
You know, we have heard this complaint in the region, across the region, specifically from the leaderships for years, that the White House specifically did not pay enough attention, and that it didn't consider the presidents there. It's equal to have something like this. You've been around, you've seen how the Central Asia strategy policy evolved. How much President Biden cares about the region, or knows about the region, let's say?
Well, President Biden both cares and knows about the region, and I think if there were any doubts about the level of interest on the part of the United States in Central Asia, hopefully today's summit has put those doubts to rest.
And yet in his speeches about Afghanistan, he rarely mentioned Central Asia. And I know that regional security was discussed today, Afghanistan was discussed, and other regional issues, climate change, economy, regional connectivity. What was his message overall, and what's new about it?
President Biden's message to his counterparts was that the United States is ready to partner with you, and the United States is ready to partner with you to address security issues, to address economic and climate and transportation issues, and to address human dimension issues, in other words, human rights and civil society and rule of law and those types of things.
And what did you hear from the Central Asian counterparts?
I think we've heard an openness from all of our Central Asian colleagues, and really a desire for more engagement with the United States. And that's something that we are very intent on delivering on.
We've long heard President Biden speak against the authoritarian regimes, authoritarian policies around the world. He mentioned Russia today in his, UNGA speech, for example. And he has been pushing to counter those kinds of policies, those kind of approaches, systems around the world. And yet today he sat down with some of the most authoritarian regimes, people who represent those kind of regimes, who also represent nepotism and other ills. How did that go? What was the chemistry like?
Look, President Biden has always been one to speak up and stand up for principles and the principles that he believes in. I think those are well known to everybody, and he spoke to those principles today with his Central Asian counterparts. And I think it's important for them to hear that message from him, and I think that was an expected message, frankly, from President Biden.
And you don't worry that you could be criticized in the region specifically for your support of these kind of regimes? For example, you have nepotistic practices in Tajikistan, you have some of that in Uzbekistan, and you know where Turkmenistan is in terms of this. How are you going to tackle this challenge?
Look, our long-standing practice in Central Asia has been to work with the countries, to engage with the countries, and through our engagement, we certainly push the things that are priorities and that we feel are important for their development, both the political development and the economic development.
Democracy?
And that's something, absolutely, and that's something that's always been a part of American policy, and that will continue to be a part of American policy. So these are things that we're going to continue to talk about and that we're going to continue to support. And
so it'll be accurate for us to assess today that President Biden pushed for democracy in the region, for democratic values in the region, for democratic development?
As I said, President Biden pushed on security, on the economic and development part of it, and then also on the human dimension, which includes democracy.
And human rights.
Yes, includes democracy and human rights. That is nothing new for the United States, nothing new as part of our policy. It's well established, and it's well established in Central Asia.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. My pleasure.
First, we are strengthening our counterterrorism cooperation, including increased U.S. security funding to Central Asia. Second, we're strengthening regional economic connectivity. For example, we're establishing a new business platform to complement our diplomatic engagement and better connect our private sectors for development purposes. And we're also discussing the potential for a new critical minerals dialogue to strengthen our energy security and supply chains for years to come. And third, we're launching a new initiative on disability rights. And I want to thank you all for your fruitful conversation today, which has already taken place. And I look forward to working with all of you to do even more in the future. I'm genuinely looking forward to following up in this meeting because we are stronger, and I genuinely believe the world is safer when we stand together, our 5 nations. So thank you very, very much for making the effort. I look forward to seeing you soon, possibly in one of your countries. Thank you.